Fischl is known for her incredible electro utility and damage output as a once-free 4-star character. Because so many people are getting Fischl and using her in their team, here's a guide that'll tell you everything you need to know about her, including a talent and constellation overview, DPS rotation, sets and stats, and team composition tips to use her optimally. My name is Braxophone, and this is the Ultimate Fischl Play Guide. Let's begin with the talent overview. Fischl's first talent is her basic attack. Fischl will fire 5 consecutive shots very quickly, as she's one of the fastest auto-attack bow users. These attacks will get stronger as you ascend her due to her attack percent scaling that comes with Ascension. And while she attacks quickly, she also has a large end lag at the end of her 5-shot combo, which means that animation cancelling will be effective. Fischl's second talent, or her E ability, is called Night Rider. With this ability, Fischl summons her bird Oz, who will attack alongside your character while he's out on the field for his duration of 10 seconds. When he's summoned, he performs a powerful electro AoE. If you press E again, Fischl will relocate Oz to where you're currently standing, but this doesn't reset the summon duration. This ability has 25 seconds for a cooldown, which is fairly long, and we'll go over how to circumvent that momentarily. Fischl's third talent is her Q ability, her elemental burst, titled Midnight Phantasmagoria. During this cast, you turn into Oz, which gives you a movement speed buff, and you hit all opponents that you come in contact with electro damage while you're flying. When the effect ends after roughly 2 seconds, Oz will remain on the field in the location where the initial cast ended, meaning that you should try to end the cast close to enemies so that it can continue to attack them alongside Fischl for the remaining 10 seconds. The cooldown for this ability is 15 seconds, which is actually less than Night Rider. In order to keep uptime on Oz, you can weave these abilities in each other's cooldown times. For example, if you don't have Midnight Phantasmagoria yet, you can use Night Rider as an opener and then cast Midnight Phantasmagoria after Night Rider has ended, so that way Oz will be up for 20 seconds total, leaving just 5 seconds between the next use of Night Rider. Alternatively, if you're running double Electro, you can cast Midnight Phantasmagoria first and then Night Rider 10 seconds after, followed by another Midnight Phantasmagoria, since it has a low energy cost of 60. That way you're able to maximize how much time Oz spends on the field while you're playing other characters. On to Fischl's passives now. Her first passive is called Stellar Predator. It makes it so that when Fischl hits Oz with a charged aim shot, Oz will deal AoE electro damage equal to 152.7% of the arrow's damage. It essentially amplifies your arrow damage and makes it AoE, which is nuts for mob clears and synergizes well with Venti and Sucrose. Additionally, this can be used to activate pressure plates with Fischl. By placing Oz on a pressure plate and shooting him with a fully charged shot, the pressure plate will activate. We don't know why this works, we just know that it does. Fischl's second passive is called Undone Be Thy Sinful Hex. With this passive, if your character triggers an elemental reaction with anything electro related while Oz is out, Oz is going to deal 80% of Fischl's attack as electro damage to the enemy affected. This one's just really good as an extra source of damage since Fischl's attack percent scales on Ascension. And her third passive makes it so that when she's dispatched on a Mondstadt expedition, the time taken to return is reduced by 25%. To level up all of these talents, you need Ballad Books, which can be farmed on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and Arrowheads, which can be farmed from ranged Hilitrolls. Moving on to a quick overview of her constellations, because you're probably going to get a lot of these on this next banner. Constellation 1 is called Gaze of the Deep. When Fischl attacks, Oz also attacks for a bonus of 22% of Fischl's total attack damage, so it's a nice DPS bonus. Fischl's second constellation is called Devourer of All Sins, which makes it so Night Rider deals an extra 200% of Fischl's attack as damage, and the size of the AoE from Night Rider is increased by 50%. Constellation 3 is called Wings of Nightmare, and it basically just levels up Night Rider 3 times. Constellation 4 is called Her Pilgrimage of Bleak. This is a damage increase to Midnight Phantasmagoria, as it outputs an extra 222% of attack as electro damage to enemies when it's cast. It also regens 20% of Fischl's HP at the end of Midnight Phantasmagoria. Constellation 5 is called Against the Fleeing Light. It levels up Midnight Phantasmagoria by 3. And Constellation 6 is called Evernight Raven. Oz will last on the field an extra 2 seconds, making his duration 12 seconds instead of 10. Also, Oz will attack with your active character during normal attacks and deal 30% of Fischl's attack as electro damage. Be aware though that this doesn't work with elemental skills, bursts, or charged attacks. Ultimately, all of these constellations are all damage buffs, but they really help Fischl out as a playable character, and the Evernight Raven one is super good specifically because you're getting an extra source of electro damage. So definitely get some constellations for her if you can manage to. Now that we've talked about her kit, we can go into her basic attack DPS rotation. For this section, each attack string was performed 2 times in rapid succession. Crits were removed from the final damage calculations, and these attack streams were performed on a golem, meaning that the damage was reduced. Additionally, these tests were not meant to test maximum DPS outputs, but they are meant for comparing different combos to maximize normal attack DPS output when artifacts and weapons are built. In the case of Fischl, her first 3 attacks are so fast that the animation canceling would actually hurt her damage output. So, with that in mind, we'll be testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus an animation cancel, and 1, 2, 3, 4 plus an animation cancel to see which is definitively the best DPS rotation. Keep in mind that my Fischl hits twice per attack due to my Constellation 1, but those hits aren't being calculated. Our first string of attacks was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with no animation cancel, and that yielded us a damage of 1092 over 5.76 seconds. That totaled a DPS of 189.6. To animation cancel in this section, we actually just tap R really quickly and try to shoot an arrow that is completely uncharged as a form of getting out another source of damage and ending our end lag quicker. So the next combo is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with an animation cancel, and this combo did slightly more damage. We got 1264 over a total of 5.5 seconds, so it did reduce the time taken to finish the combo by a little bit, and that got us a total DPS of 229. Even though my animation cancel only shaved off a fraction of the time, if you get better at the skill, you can shave down the time by a hair more for even better optimized DPS. And the combo we followed that up with was 1, 2, 3, 4, followed by an animation cancel into the same combo. In total, we did 982 damage over a span of 5.24 seconds, which yielded us a total of 187.4 DPS. This combo is much faster, but it goes to show that the scaling on the last hit is so important to the combo in doing high DPS. Of the 3 combos we tested, it does look like the full combo with an animation cancel at the end by shooting an arrow is going to get the highest DPS of the 3 combos. So this basically just means finish your combo, get used to animation canceling if you want to run the best damage on your Fischl. Alternatively though, if you don't like shooting an arrow between combos, you can always perform a small jump to cancel the end lag instead, or perform a dash right as the 5th shot animation ends. Now that we know our optimal rotation, we can go ahead and get started talking about sets and stats. When you're considering sets for Fischl, you have to make the decision between running her as a DPS or running her as a support. She's completely viable as either, but I prefer her as a support because I like melee characters as a source of main DPS. But anyways, we're gonna go over both sets. For support Fischl, the best set definitively is the Thundering Fury set, because it gives a 15% electro damage bonus, which is already really big, but also increases the damage from Overload, Electro Charge, and Superconduct by 40%, which is a pretty big margin. Whenever one of those effects is triggered, it lowers your elemental skill cooldown by 1 second, and it can proc once every 0.8 seconds. That just means theoretically, if you can get off 10 reactions in 10 seconds, you can reduce the cooldown of Knight Rider by 10 seconds after the 10 seconds from his initial cast, which means you should, in theory, be able to use Knight Rider again just 5 seconds after Oz leaves the field if you play another character that can proc the Thundering Fury 4-piece bonus once a second. It's ultimately just a really good set for uptime and amplifying Oz's passive damage, which is realistically what makes Fischl an awesome support. For stats on support Fischl, you can argue that Elemental Mastery is good, but I believe that crit, attack, and electro damage are going to get you better results, and here's my reasoning. Elemental reactions can net a lot of damage, but most of Fischl's abilities and synergies with Oz have to deal with Fischl's attack and electro damage. By default, the electro damage going out is going to be higher than the elemental proc damage due to Fischl's Ascension giving attack percent, and if you factor in that Oz can crit while elemental reactions can't, then the argument can be made that building attack, electro damage, and crit is going to net you more damage output with Fischl as a support unit. Don't fall into the attack percent trap for goblets and circlets though. Make sure that if you can run crit effectively, that you do, and if you have an electro goblet, use it to make sure that your Oz damage is amplified. For DPS Fischl, you have a couple more options. Thundering Fury is still very good, but the 4-piece Thunder Soother set will actually yield you a ton more damage when you have Oz out, since it boosts your damage against enemies affected by Electro by 35%. This means that both your Electro attacks and your physical attacks will be buffed while the enemy is debuffed, which can lead to some pretty insane gains. Alternatively, if you want to build raw physical DPS and crit, you can run 2 Gladiator and 2 Bloodstained Chivalry, which will get you some really high physical damage if you add a physical damage cup instead of an Electro cup. Make sure specifically to go all one way or all the other though, either Electro cup with Thunder Soother or physical cup with 2 Gladiator, 2 Bloodstained. As for substats, they're the usual. You want crit rate, which is better than crit damage, which is better than attack percent, better than attack, which is better than elemental mastery, better than energy recharge. Now that we've gone over sets, we can go ahead and talk about weapons. For support Fischl, you want to keep attack percent high for Oz to get out tons of damage, with Fischl's already great attack scaling. That being said, any opportunity for crit should be taken into account. The best weapons for support Fischl are the following: Skyward Harp, which is better than Amos Bow, which is better than Stringless, better than Viridescent Hunt, better than Prototype Crescent, which is better than Sharpshooter's Oath, which is better than Messenger. The reason Stringless is strong, even though it offers Elemental Mastery, is due to its passive that grants 30% more Elemental skill and burst damage. You can use the energy recharge bows like Sacrificial or Favonius Warbow, but seeing as Fischl's constantly creating electro energy from Oz, it's not 100% necessary. That being said, they are both very viable, but I would go with Favonius over Sacrificial. For DPS Fischl, you're going to want something different though. You want physical damage scaling and normal attack damage, so this is the order of bows from best to worst. Skyward Harp is going to be better than Amos Bow, which is going to be better than Rust, which is going to be better than Compound Bow if you're running physical damage, which is going to be better than the Viridescent Hunt Bow, which is better than Prototype Crescent, Sharpshooter's Oath, and Messenger. Rust is particularly great for normal attack damage and would function better on a physical build, but 40% more normal attack damage is just strong in general. Now that you have an idea of what weapons to run, we can move on to team composition, and to be completely honest, support Fischl will fit in with any of the current cast, just due to Oz being a summon rather than an ability that Fischl has to be in combat for. However, the one thing that you should be aware of when building support Fischl is that your Thundering Fury set won't proc its effect with swirl damage, so I wouldn't advise building her with an Anemo carry, since to get the most out of her kit, you're going to want to mix Electro with Fire, Cryo, or Hydro. Don't let that discourage you from building her with Sucrose or Venti though, since they mostly fill the role of support or sub DPS, and Fischl's deployable electro damage complements their playstyles super well. Jinchu is probably the best character you could run with DPS Fischl, since when you're auto-attacking, you'll be able to hit the enemy for constant hydro damage. Jinyan is also good with Fischl for the same reason Jinchu is, since she can help out your physical damage and give you a shield that outputs pyro damage to proc with Oz. Kaya and Diona are great units to run with Fischl as well, as Kaya offers many opportunities to superconduct with his kit, and Diona's Q creates an AoE that constantly procs Cryo. Zhongling is good for the same reason Xinyan is. Her kit allows her to constantly proc Overload and deal pyro damage while Oz is on the field. Honestly, every character in the Genshin Impact cast is going to play well with Fischl, so if she fits as an electro character in your team, run her. She's a very selfless character that opens up many opportunities for synergy. And with all those things being said, I hope you learned something about Fischl. If you like this guide, consider giving it a thumbs up and leaving a comment down below. And also, only about 8% of you guys are subscribed, and so if you want to see more Genshin Impact content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below the video, because it really helps me out. I hope you all enjoy the 1.2 Dragon Spine patch, and of course, as always, happy rolling everyone. I'll see you guys next time.